Our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound.
Hello and welcome everyone to Across the Pond. I'm your host StijnFawkes, and today I wanted to discuss the topic of the split society or split world with all of you. This is something that has become more and more prevalent, not just in our physical world or online talk, but in so many more places, in so many more ways. So I thought this would be a great solo episode. So first things first, split society. It pretty much is what you think it is. It is our current society split at the very least in half, if not in so many more places. And I'm not just talking about general division. There is so much more going on. And I thought a great place to start with this was from a aspect that I am very well familiar with, and that is from a more general occult and in particular theosophical point of view, because theosophy knows the planetary chain, of course, and the many worlds theory. There is the physical, astral, jivic, fohadic, and then the divine and formless arupa world of spirits, with our current planet being on the lowest spectrum of that, on the 7th level, the purely physical level. That is very much a theosophical way of thinking, more prevalent also in Kabbalah, for example, who have the different trees of life, tree of death. They know it by many names, but they believe in the many worlds theory, and that our planet, the lower vibration and the higher vibration of our planet, because our planet is a living being. It is not just a rock floating through outer space, if that is what you believe, of course, but that is something for another episode. But our planet is a living thing with a heartbeat, with vibrations, most commonly known as the Schumann resonance, of course. And from my understanding of theosophy, and I am quoting G.G. Young here, or trying to explain what I have learned from her, and she is a student of Rudolf Steiner, who was also a very well-known theosophist, spiritualist, someone very in touch with the occult. The idea or the theory is that the lower vibration and the higher vibration of Earth literally separate from each other, creating two entirely different planets, with the lower planet known as the 8th sphere, so falling even deeper into matter. A personal theory of mine is that the 8th sphere could be represented in things like Second Life or the metaverse, for example, like any kind of virtual reality or any kind of altered reality where you have to be plugged into any kind of technological device to experience. In that way, you are hooked on technology, hooked on fibers, on very dense, very earthly materials, and it is, you could say, a realm within a realm, because your physical body may be on Earth, but your mental, spiritual, probably even, it wouldn't surprise me if they're also pushing for that, if, you know, like metaverse or any kind of virtual reality churches are a thing. I don't know much about that. I haven't looked into that. I try to stay very much away from that. But you are interacting in another deeper layer. You could call it the eighth sphere. That could be the eighth sphere that is theorized, that is talked about in theosophy. This is solely my opinion about Second Life and the metaverse, but the theosophical belief is absolutely true. It has been a while since I have heard those theories. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I know this is how they think. And this is honestly also what is happening. It is happening in the world. We are split. We are split already. In the New Age, the New Age movement, the spiritualist movement, they talk about, you know, ascending to 5D, or, you know, like playing 5D chess, or even 7D, because 7 is a holy number. If you just live a pure enough life, if you live according to love and light, then you will ascend to 5D, and from there even higher. I believe it goes all the way up to like 10 dimensions, or 10 plus dimensions. A missed opportunity to to make it 11, because, you know, angel numbers and the like. But yeah, it is a very common theme in the New Age as well. You know, higher vibrations and lower vibrations. It's now even become a mainstream thing to say, like, I'm not digging the vibe. Basically saying that, you know, I don't like the vibrations that you are putting out. I don't like the level or the frequency on which you vibrate. I doubt that the people who say that regularly, or who use it as a everyday saying, know 100% what they are talking about. But it is a great example of how things like that have become mainstream. And there are so many more examples, and I will go into a few more that I have seen, that I have personally experienced, that I am experiencing, and I will try to come with examples, of course, and sources. I do want to back up the things that I am saying, the things that I am speaking about on this podcast in particular, and on my own personal projects, of course. So going from the higher realms, going from the occult and the New Age, kind of down to earth, talking about the religious aspects in general, because what we see in the world today is that the whole, what is called woke society, woke community, are really all either atheist bordering on nihilist, sometimes even believing all hope is lost, believing there is nothing more that we can do because, we're all doomed, and global warming, all those things, or the big event that happened at time of recording, let's say around 5 years ago, the C-19 event that will become more prevalent. And if they are not atheist, then they are religious, but in religious cults worship. I'll try to explain. It's a thing that you heard a lot over the last 5 years, especially the first two, when we were still in the midst of it. Trust the science. The science has been settled. Don't you dare ask those men and women in lab coats and the people who have, done studies and, who are getting paid royally to study these things. You are not allowed to question them because their word is law. What they say goes. What they say is the absolute truth. That, ladies and gentlemen, is called religious dogma. That is signs of cult status, even. That is what the Christian church does a lot. You're not allowed to question the Pope. You're not allowed to question the methods. You're not allowed to question the priest, the vicar, any religious person of a higher status. You are not allowed to question them because they have studied the word of God. They speak for God. They are possessed, and I'm using this word very deliberately. They are possessed by the Holy Spirit. So their word is God's word. And you wouldn't question God, now would you? You wouldn't question the Most High. You wouldn't question the Almighty. That is what science and scientists, the more mainstream scientists who also get a lot of government grants, perhaps not directly, perhaps through a couple of, shell companies, so that the paper trail is either incredibly confusing and just leads to those shell companies, or the paper trail is non-existent. You gotta cover all the bases, of course. But that is what science is doing now. You are not allowed to question it. While the whole thing of science, the whole job description of scientists is to question everything and then find an answer to that question, which is now also done in reverse. They have a certain thing in mind. We're gonna try and prove this notice that we have. A lot of it seems to be about race nowadays, and specifically anti-white, anti-Caucasians, anti-Europe. So we are going to try and prove that this sub-Saharan African or Asian people are better, are stronger, are this, are that, and then they will gather evidence, they will find evidence that supports their claim, or just twist it in case of Cheddar Man. For example, the Cheddar Man, you'll have to look that up specifically. I don't know too much about it. I don't want to shout out too many other creators here, but really find what Tom Rousel of Survive the Jive has said about it. He is a true expert in that field. But Cheddar Man was portrayed with very dark skin, very sub-Saharan dark skin. Yes, hunter-gatherers were definitely more toned, more tanned than we are. I mean, they lived outside. They were literally in the sun the whole day, every day. You know, hunting, gathering, it's in the name. I am Dutch, I'm Northern European, I'm quite pale. Not as pale as some of my fellow Europeans, perhaps. But yeah, if I walk around in the sun the entire day, I get a nice tan. I am, you know, at the end of the day, or perhaps the next day, I am a little more browned than I was the day before. Which has nothing to do with my ancestry, but has everything to do with that I've been in the sun, out in the sun, the entire day. So they are deliberately trying to create a schism with that as well, pitching people against each other, because that is, of course, the most well-known split society that we know. You have the government, the billionaire class, the aristocrats, the high society versus the plebs, the working class, the blue collar, the poor. That split society has pretty much always existed in some way or form, but over the years has become more and more prevalent. You know, we've all heard it. The rich get richer, the poor stay poor or grow even poorer. So that is the religious aspect, the more negative religious aspect. But then on the other hand, and I can attest to this, the old gods of Europe, the old beliefs of Europe, European paganism, or even Buddhism, Hinduism, although those two religions really never died out as much as European paganism did. But European paganism, whether that be Norse Germanic, Hellenistic, Eastern, so Slavic, it is making a return. It is coming back. It is getting stronger. And whether that is as a response towards the scientific, atheist, often communist or communist-ish people, I can't speak for that. I know that a lot of new pagans, a lot of neo-pagans, you know, those who are new to the path, come from a Christian background because they are disappointed in the church. The church doesn't provide them with the answers that they are looking for, because the church is about keeping the power within the church. So that is rising. It is really rising, and I can attest to this on a personal level. I am a Germanic pagan. I run my own community, my own tribe, together with my wife, and I see it every day. Either people getting more interested in it, or finding the gods, or strengthening their bonds with the gods, with their ancestors. And I say that a lot of neo-pagans come from a Christian background because, the church isn't it for them. At the same time, it seems that Christianity as a religion is also gaining strength. But I would say that this is in more true Christianity, because Christ was, or is perhaps even, a warrior. He is a solar deity. He is about strength, inner strength, strength through the community, strength through the family. And with more and more Christians, I'm seeing that as well. That yes, they are leaving the church, perhaps, but they are not leaving the faith. Their faith has strengthened, and they fight for the true Christian values, the values of be a good man, be a better man, be better today than you were yesterday. Love your family, love thy neighbor, but, don't turn the other cheek. If it is a battle that you are looking for, then a battle is what you will get. That is the warrior Christ. That is the spirit of the Christ who braided a whip on the spot to whip the merchants out of the temple on the Holy Sabbath. That is the Christ who said, sell your cloak if you have to and buy the sword, because this is a fight. And don't be afraid to get down and dirty, because if you fight for what is right, if you fight for what is good, then you will be rewarded in the afterlife, which is beautiful. It's a very pagan mindset as well. The Norse pagans among us, or Germanic pagans, we have that in Odin. He promised us Valhalla. He promised us not necessarily a afterlife of peace and bliss, but a afterlife where we are going to Valhalla. Or if you are a truly special warrior, if you're truly the elite of the elite, you may even be blessed to go to Folkvanger with Freya. But we see that strengthening as well in the common people, in the everyday folk, in people like you and me. So we see religious dogma creeping into science together with atheism, nihilism, communism, and whether it is in response to that or a natural thing, we also see religion getting stronger. We see paganism is on the rise. Christianity is becoming stronger, is becoming more of a true Christianity. And there are many known pagans, let's say, such as myself, for example, and others, in particular the creator that we know as Asha Logos, who are calling to literally separate ourselves from society, to create a separate system in which we can live, in which we can thrive. Myself with, close friends of mine, people that I consider to be family, especially within my tribe, we are trying to do that. We are already trying to create a place for that while, still doing our thing to take care of our families, take care of our wife, take care of our kids, or in the case of, one of my brothers, one of my non-blood brothers, take care of his grandchildren, even. So those places are coming. They are being built. There are grassroots movements, grassroots groups who are already calling for that. I am part of many such groups who have the same idea and who call for the same thing, and all of us, whether as different groups or individuals or together, are looking to literally separate ourselves from this diseased society. Now, there is also, and I have hinted on that already with the whole C19 thing, with the rise of religion and with the rise of science, or scientism, I guess, if we're gonna give it a more religious name, there is also very much the medical aspect of this. And I think for a lot of people, the medical side of things, especially, since we had that worldwide scare about 5 years ago, that is what a lot of people saw. That is how they woke up, if you will. They saw how the inoculations, I'll say, were pushed hard and rolled out incredibly fast. Normally, it takes years and years and years of research just to develop one, and then it takes, years and years to find out, okay, what are the side effects of it? How does this affect the human body? Clinical trials have to be done. A lot of, unfortunately, animal studies will be done. That wasn't the case with the C19 inoculation. And I'm sorry that I'm censoring myself, but this will be uploaded on public platforms. I am new to this podcast, and I don't want to ruin it right away by being too vocal and too loud about certain things. I know that the creator is very serious about this podcast, and I am thankful to be a part of it. So I am going to try my best to censor myself in a way that you still know what I mean. I do have my own show. I do have my own projects. I don't censor myself there as much because I really don't care. But that's because it's my own. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. For a lot of people, that is why they also refused the inoculation, myself included. I refused the inoculation. I knew too little about it. I trusted my own body. I trusted my own health. I am fit. I eat well. I exercise regularly. I am not and was not in any of the risk categories. So also with that, just from a purely rational side of things, is why I refused the inoculation. And already then you saw a divide, a split, a schism being created between those who chose to be inoculated and who were really pushing, demanding almost even others to get the inoculation as well. Not saying that everybody did that. There are plenty of people who, did believe in free choice, which is great. Thank you very much to those people. I chose not to. You chose to. That's on you. That's on me. But even our national leaders, the people that are supposed to have care for us, that want nothing but the best for us, because what is best for the people is best for the country, is best for society. But they really, really started pushing it and saying all these weird things and doing these weird things, coming up with slogans. Like in the Netherlands, for example, we had Dansen with Janssen. So if you got the Johnson and Johnson, I think they meant with that, inoculation, then you could go out dancing, you could go to festivals, you could go to clubs, you could party, really. Just any kind of party without having to worry. On the other hand, if you didn't, if you were one of those people who chose to not be inoculated, get inoculated, you had to do a test. Every time you went to a festival or a club, you either had to have a proof of good health. In the Netherlands, this was a QR code that you got with your inoculation. So a lot of people will say, oh, that is the mark of the beast. I am not too sure about that. I'll believe it's part of it. I don't necessarily believe it is the whole thing. Or you had to do a test, and preferably a test 24 hours beforehand. And you had to bring proof of the test. And for a lot of festivals, for a lot of, even outdoor events, it couldn't be one of those DIY tests. You had to go to a testing center, have a Q-tip or whatever they used stuck up your nose, and halfway through your brain. It felt like I had to do it once. I've never done it again since. And the one time I did, I had no other choice, unfortunately. But that divide was very much made, while at the same time telling everyone, no, we are not forcing you to do this. On the other hand, if you choose to do this, you can do this, you can do that, you can do, this, that, and the other thing. And if you don't take this, if you don't do this, we are going to make it a lot harder for you. So making the schism, making the split very much on purpose, and in classic politician speak, saying one thing, doing the other. It's a classic. We all know by now how they do that. It has even gotten to the point that those who chose to not be inoculated, the more hardcore side of it, the more, and sometimes even extremist side of it, they got a name for those who were not inoculated based on claims that were made at that time that the inoculation did something to your blood. A lot of the side effects that we have seen over the years are blood clots. So those people also started to very, very lovingly call it the clot shot. People are so creative. But those more extremist people, and take extremist, take it how you will, started to call themselves purebloods because they didn't get the shot. They weren't at risk of blood clots or whatever else kind of nasty things were happening. And speaking of purebloods, that is another thing that I have seen more and more, and you'll see that also with the rise of spirituality, with the rise of paganism. More and more people looking for natural medicine. I don't want to say friend of mine, but someone that I respect, whose work I respect. She has managed to heal herself and heal her children through natural, holistic medicine, through changing her lifestyle, through changing what she ingests, and I'm not just, in her case, I am talking about, what she drinks, what she eats, exercise and all of that. But what you ingest is also the magazines that you read, the movies that you watch, the news agencies that you follow, or that's not necessarily ingestion, but it's consumption. It goes hand in hand. So it is a lot. So those groups and those people, like, such individual who managed to heal herself through natural and holistic means, they were being split from society already. They were already seen as outcasts, treated as outcasts. And instead of getting really, really angry at that, they decided to embrace it, which is the right thing to do, by the way. You can get mad about it, you can fight the system, try to change the system. But I hate to break it to you, the system is not broken. It is not a bug, it is a feature. The system is designed this way, which is, again, going back to my previous point, why pagan content creators like Asha Logos, like myself, even the more Christian religious one like Trat West, for example, calling for a very traditional style of Christianity in which you are not dependent on the government or anyone else. It is why they're calling for a separate system to be created, because we're not going to fix it. The only way is to either, eradicate it entirely, which is unlikely to happen, or separate ourselves from it and create our own system. And speaking of systems and extremists and all of that, that is also how society is being split, especially in the United States. This has become very prevalent. The United States has always been a country, a nation of extremes, whether that be in, extremely rich, extremely poor, extremely vocal, extremely obese. There is really, and I'm speaking from experience. I am married to a American, so I see a lot of this. I see a lot of it firsthand. There is not much of a middle ground. It's either one or the other, and we see that in my least favorite topic of them all, politics. And I can't say for sure if this is also as bad in real life, let's say, outside the door, if you touch grass, if you really see those people. But especially on social media, especially platforms like Twitter, for example, like X, you will see that, when you have a certain opinion, you are called alt-right. Or when your opinion differs, you're alt-left. You're on the extreme of it. There is no in-between. It's another split. Because, everyone on the right who is calling for common sense, who is calling for tradition, who is calling for, conservative values, sees themselves as better even than those on the left who call for equality, who call for reparations, who call for, the gender roles to be equal as well. A lot of the extreme left-leaning people are very much a death cult. That is where the communism, atheism also comes into play again, and is really all interconnected with each other. But yeah, it's Democrats and Republican, it's alt-right, alt-left, it is, conservative versus the other side. I'm not sure what that is in the United States. The Dutch politics works different like that, and I try to not get myself in between those people. I try to stay non-political, or just in the center, although I do lean more towards traditionalism, but a more spiritual traditionalism, the kind that René Guénon or Julius Evola have written, have spoken about. And yeah, so I am myself even separate from that society, from all those different groups. And over the years, it has become more and more obvious that there is this huge schism, that there is this huge divide among people, while at the same time there is also a very large coming together, or coming back together, of people who are purposefully separating themselves from all the, and pardon my French, but all the bullshit that is going on. They choose to not participate. They choose to stay right in the middle, to cut everything right down the middle. Or they choose to stay within their own communities, to stay within their own religious communities, to stay, to keep their minds on what is best for themselves, for their family, for their loved ones, for their immediate surrounding. Because everything has been made into this major worldwide global issue. Even the smallest local issues are now global issues. Whatever is going on in Africa or Asia, or thousands of kilometers away from where I live, now all of a sudden those are my issues too, and I should take care of those less fortunate first. I am so sorry to say this to all the people who think that way, but I choose not to. I choose to take care of myself and of my loved ones first. I have a family that I love. I have a brother that I unfortunately lost. I have a younger sister whom I love, who I adore. I have a wife. I have 2 beautiful kids. I have 2 endearing rascals of cats. And I choose to split from society. I choose to not participate. So I am creating my own split society by taking care of myself, by taking care of my loved ones. So yeah, this is something that I felt compelled to talk about. I've been discussing this with a couple of people lately and wanted to elaborate on this, that it is not simply, those on the right, those on the left, the liberal ones, the conservative ones, Democrat, Republican, that it is not simply, for those of a more spiritual mindset, that it is not simply lower vibration and higher vibration. This is occult, this is theosophical, this is political, this is religious, this is medical. So yeah, thank you all very much for listening. This has been my first episode for Across the Pond. If this is something that interests you, if this is something that you want to learn more about, any of these topics, especially the occult, religious, pagan ones, I can speak on very well. Like I said, I am a pagan. I run my own tribe. I am very much connected to those kinds of groups, and that is also what I will bring into this podcast, aside from the usual stuff that we all know and love, some good conspiracy theories. Every once in a while it's nice to just theorize and put on your tinfoil hats and have a talk with all your fellow thinkers, all your fellow noticers. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. If you are listening to this on either Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please do leave that 5-star rating. It helps out so much more than you would think, and it doesn't cost a lot of effort. It's not really a lot. Just tap those 5 stars, confirm it as well. Always asking for confirmation. It helps us out without any effort, really. Follow us on the socials across the pond. Yeah, let us know what you want to hear. Let us know what kind of topics that you would like us to cover. We are always looking for more. We are very willing and wanting to engage with our audience. So thank you all. This has been StijnFawkes from Across the Pond. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to like, make sure to follow us. Thank you all. Until next time.